All right, guys, I want to welcome you to another edition of Divide Chat. I apologize in advance for it being so long. There's been a lot going on, both with the Close the Divide movement and with me personally. But I wanted to make sure we got things going back for 2013. So when I thought about what the theme should be for tonight's edition, it was kind of timely that the President's State of the Union address is just about wrapping up. And he spent, of course, talking about jobs, bringing jobs back into the United States and all the opportunity that's here. But we all know, as we've been listening to Divide Chat, that one of the big conversations we continue to have is how do we extend those opportunities to demographics and the people who aren't taking advantage of them. So I think, even though we know there's a lot of jobs, a lot of opportunities trying to be created in the United States, the biggest and best opportunities are entrepreneurship and creating your own companies. So I invited a couple people onto the show tonight to talk a little bit about their experience and hopefully answer a lot of questions about their experience about creating their own companies and what it took to get there, how they've continued to maintain that, and keep going forward. So, before, as always, I want to give everybody who's in the room tonight a chance to introduce themselves. So we'll go from left to right. Aaron, starting with you.
Okay, my name is Aaron Saunders. I have am I on?
You're on, but your image is frozen, but you're here.
Okay. I have a mobile development agency based in Washington, D.C. that I started about 1.5 years ago. We build, we like to say that we're a mobile-first company. We build mobile websites, mobile applications, cross-platform, and any supporting infrastructure that's required. So if there's a content management system or a website or any other tool around it, we'll build those tools.
Great, great. I introduced Ben, good friend of mine. Ben, you want to introduce yourself?
I'd love to. My name is Ben McDonald, and I previously started a company called Londonberry, which was CTO for hire, where I offered Navarro and myself skills out to people who were looking to build web applications. During that time, I also created a web application called Hash Album, which took the union of, on Twitter, the union of images and hashtags and made photo albums out of them. So that was a little side project. Currently, I am the Director of Research and Development for a company in Jacksonville, Florida called ICS, where we make inventory control software that controls a lot of the warehouses that are moving products in our great nation.
One thing Ben left out, which is a pretty big deal, that he was one of the executives at a Ruby on Rails consultancy called HashRocket out of Jacksonville, Florida. It was one of the leading Ruby on Rails consultancies in the country for a few years there. And humble as he is, he left out one of the big ones, so I couldn't let that go. Reggie, you want to introduce yourself, my brother?
Sure. My name is Reggie Dupree. I'm a web designer, graphic designer in New Jersey. I have my own company, Final Draft Design, and I also work full-time as a senior web designer at an internet marketing company called WebMax in New Jersey.
So last but certainly not least, ma'am, how are you?
Sean Morrison. I am the founder and CEO of Collective Mobile, which is a mobile development agency in the Bay Area.
Once again, I have a panel full of people underselling themselves. But that's all right. We'll get more out of you before the night is over. So really, I wanted to open up the conversation. And Sean, since we ended up with you, we'll start with you. Maybe telling a little bit about why you decided to start your company in the first place. When did that moment hit you that, hey, I'm going to stop working for someone else and work for myself? What was kind of the catalyst in that decision? And talk a little bit about how that process started.
I think the catalyst for that decision for me, I was working as the executive director of mobile development at an agency called EVO here in the Bay Area, and I wasn't very happy with agency life. I've been working in the agency world for quite some time, and I just kind of was a little over it. And I was fairly fascinated with mobile, and I was pretty confident that that was the next big thing. I went and had a talk with the CEO and told him, I'm thinking of leaving. And he said, well, if you stayed, what would you prefer to do? And I said, well, I think you need to start developing mobile products, and I think that I'm the person to sort of take the business there. And he had enough faith in me and actually just kind of allowed me to go off and start a new business unit and hire a couple of engineers to build a test app that we wanted clients to buy, and we created a simple application that could showcase sort of like the larger thought. And it proved to be really popular. And from 2 engineers, we grew to an entire team of engineers and project managers. And that, of course, eventually became a little too hectic for me. So still being convinced that mobile was the future for me, I started to really explore, what if I did this for myself? I kind of did this for somebody else. What if I just kind of took the leap and did it for myself and just sort of take control of my own destiny? And after a while, I just said, why not? It's not always the easiest thing to convince your family that you're leaving a great job to go off and do something that you have no guarantees, but I think at the end of the day, it's probably one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. So that was pretty much the catalyst, and that's how I arrived at actually having my own company.
Great. I appreciate that. So, Aaron, I'm going to jump to you from your perspective, and it's no mistake that I picked both Sean and Aaron to come on because they both have mobile development companies, because in my belief, that's probably the biggest area we need to focus on right now in terms of growth opportunities. So, Aaron, I'm going to kick it to you and let you give us a little bit background about how you started.
All right. I've been, in the background, I started programming computers when I was in 6th grade. So I have been in this space for a very, very long time. When I first started programming computers wasn't that big, so I did computers in high school. I got to college, and I was like, computers aren't really a future, and I actually switched to pre-med. After a semester of pre-med and horrible grades in chemistry, I just went back to computers, but it was just always a hobby to me. But as I got older and I saw the computers becoming more and more relevant, I was happy that was a choice I made. I had a career of building. I worked for a bunch of startups in New York and in Boston. Then I went and worked at Lotus Consulting for a while and did some notes development. And then I moved on to IBM and worked there for a while. And then I was in New York during the whole e-commerce boom up in New York. Worked for a e-commerce company called, I don't even remember the name, Interworld, yes. And I had the opportunity, I worked on a DisneyStore.com. I did some work on the original Nike store. I did some work on the original Toys R Us. I got to travel to Europe, did some work on the Marks and Spencer website. So I did got to do a lot of interesting consulting and stuff like that. Settled back down, came back to New York, got my MBA, IT marketing and strategy. Then 9/11 happened, and things definitely slowed down in New York for a while. I kind of stepped back, reflected on my life after all the traveling and running around and everything that I was doing, and ended up getting a job which brought me down to Washington, D.C. area. In Washington, D.C., I led a team of engineers to do a complete rewrite of the register.com website. And then that, once again, became a lot for me to handle. And so I said, let me just step back and slow down, and did some government contracting. I went to a government contractor. I built an extremely large collaboration system that was used by the State Department to process cables. So basically, from any State Department location around the world, you could see cables all the way back to the 60s. We put full text indexing, searching, tagging, retrieving, email alerts. We built this whole complex system. And then now we get to the mobile part. A person who worked for the government around the provincial reconstruction teams in Afghanistan saw the solution and wanted the exact same thing for them in Afghanistan. So I left with a gentleman. We attempted to start a company I built the solution again for them. We launched it and it flopped. Mobile had picked up. I pitched the government task manager that we should do a mobile app. They said no, no, no. The option year came up again, and we needed a solution. They took my idea. They ran with it. I didn't like how I felt I was compensated for the new contract that they got. So I saved the money from working there. When the contract was over, I left and I launched my mobile company. That was about a year and a half ago. We started in Washington, D.C. We've grown to about 12 people now, and things are going very well.
Great, man. Thanks for the background. I'm gonna shift it over to Reggie and Ben, because they both said that they have companies and they've started companies while they've worked full-time jobs. Maybe you guys can talk a little bit about that process, why you decided to do that, what some of the challenges were, and kind of running a company on the side. Because a lot of people who are watching this can't just stop their full-time job before they get before they get their company going. And a lot of people don't realize that a lot of companies start kind of on nights and weekends while people have a full-time job. So Reggie, I'm gonna kick it over to you.
Well, I actually started my business the year I graduated in college, because that was the same year as 9/11, and I couldn't find a job. So everywhere I did look, they wanted to see my own experience. So I had to create my own experience. So I started my company, Final Draft Design, just doing websites for churches, for entertainment companies in the area, building it that way. And then I eventually found a job, with that experience. So I just kept my business on the side and just been doing that. And hopefully one day I will be able to leave my full-time and work full-time in my company and develop that.
Great, Ben.
Yeah, I would say that. So Hash album was something that was on the side, and it's definitely something that's doable. Obviously, the more responsibilities you have in life, I have 3 kids and a beautiful wife, so I'm competing with those responsibilities in order to accomplish some of my dreams on the side. So that's been a constant struggle for me, because I have ideas and desires. So the one bad part about my story is the company that my day job was actually also my company. So I was starting a company on the side while I was also should have been out raising some sales and things like that. So yeah, I mean, so I think what I hear Sean and Aaron and Reggie saying is it's all kind of the same thing. We've seen other people. We've learned how, as we watch other people and make a lot of money for other people, and then we had the desire to go and do it on our own.
Absolutely. I think, taking a little bit myself, I think that the common theme here, whether people just, created the opportunity, an existing job, created an opportunity on the side, saw a project that they could take and run out with, is that, every day we're kind of put in front of opportunities to make things our own. I used to say a lot of times when, some of my jobs that if you close a big deal, the company gets richer, and tomorrow you come back and collect your same paycheck, right? So I think what Sean and Aaron and everybody in the panel can speak to is that the difference is being in control of your own destiny, right? There used to be an old adage that having a steady job meant job security. Our older generation talked about having the same job for 15 years and 20 years. And I think specifically, a lot of things I try to push to people is that in the innovation economy, that's no longer true. It's no longer true because companies change so dramatically from year to year. But more importantly, if you have skills, you can create a level of demand for yourself that you're not going to want to be in the same job. You're going to want to have more opportunities to do so. So I think maybe let's talk about, I'll throw the next question out to the group. For people watching, what are some of the signs that they should look for that are saying to them, hey, it might be time to venture out on your own?
I mean, to me, I think part of it was, I was working for someone else, and the bottom line is I just perceived that my value was not really being. It wasn't necessarily even about just the compensation. To me, it was just more about just to respect the way that I felt when I was coming to work every day and everything I was putting into it. And I felt like I'm putting all of this into it, but like you said, I'm just getting a paycheck, as opposed to I'm not really building something that is really mine or that I felt I was part of. It was just the people I worked for felt like, you are a contractor, it's just your job, just do your job, and anything else was basically me just giving it away. So I felt if I'm going to give my all, why don't I do my all for myself?
Great. Sean?
I can't really say what signs people should. I think it's an internal thing. I think that some people have the entrepreneurial spirit and some people just don't. I think that it's filled with risk, and some people just should probably stay at their jobs because it is not easy. It's never going to be easy, and if you're not cut out for it, then you know what I mean. So I don't know what specific signs someone should specifically look for, but I think you know it when you feel it inside of you. Like you just know that, you know what, I can't come in here one more day, or I could be doing this so much better, or whatever it is that you feel inside you. I think that's what you need to follow.
Ben, Reggie, anything to add?
I would say I had 3 or 4 customers that I kind of had lined up before I went out on my own. So go ahead and float your ideas out there before you do it. Obviously being careful to respect your current job, but that's one thing. I would also say, I'll echo what I heard earlier, that you need to, it is a scary, scary time to go out on your own. So make sure that you have your significant other on board with you, because that's something that can plague you very badly if you don't have his or her support.
And I would just add to that, just make sure you have the passion to do what you want to do. For me, I had a passion for designing and web development, and then I started to work, and I wasn't able to do the things that I had a passion for at my job. So that's why I continue doing my thing on the side.
Yeah, my advice is a little different. I think I firmly believe that anyone who is of working age should try to start something on their own, even if it's on the side, because I agree with Sean that it's definitely hard, but I actually think it teaches you more about what you're good at and not good at than any other process in the world. That's one reason. So a lot of people, I remember before the internet got sexy and everybody started making a lot of money from it, when no one wanted to care about technology, where no one would think about getting into this space. But now that it is, we have this illusion that, hey, I just need to start a technology company and the money's just going to start flowing in. It's not that simple. It's a lot simpler today than it's ever been, but it's not that simple. But at the same time, going through that process can either show you what you're really good at, what you're not good at, what you should focus on. And if you decide to keep doing it, it helps you better focus your skills as opposed to just being under that illusion. So I think that's one reason. The second reason is, there are a lot of people, and this is going to segue into the next question. There's a lot of people who don't have any opportunities right now, right? Who don't see steady job opportunities, don't see steady education opportunities. And I think when you're in that scenario, there's absolutely no reason not to start something, right? And that something could be, hey, if you're technically savvy, you're the person in your apartment building that goes around and charges people to help them set up their DVRs, etc. Whatever that is, by utilizing that skill. But I think there's so much opportunity out here when it comes to technology that if you're unemployed right now, it's definitely an area that you should look at, because A, if you're not working, you have the time to build those skills, and B, there's just so much opportunity out here, you can create a level of prosperity and living for yourself. So with that, I want to go, we've talked a lot about the opportunities that are available in creating your own company. We've heard some great examples, but let's talk about why we think there aren't more people of color, more women in this space, right? There's more examples than there are today. We just heard the State of the Union, where we've heard technology referenced about 10 times. Why aren't people going down this route, right? Why aren't you seeing? Are you seeing, Aaron, Sean? Are you seeing people, a multitude of resumes from people of color to fill your positions? Why do we think that that's not happening?
I mean, I'll start first. I mean, I think part of the reason is that there's some confusion about what it takes to be successful in this space. I'll use myself as a perfect example. I did horrible in math, and there's this. And I've spoken with kids. I've worked with kids. I worked at hackathons here in DC, and there's a lot of them have this assumption that you have to be good at math to be a software developer, and I can tell you flat out that is not true. I am horrible at math. If it was just up to math, I would have never gotten a computer science degree. To me, developing software is a creative process. And, when I talk to kids, that's what I tell them. I tell them, hey, software is a creative process. Software development is a creative process. And the other thing is, you don't have to be a developer to be in the space. I mean, there's designers, there's developers, there's project managers, there's testers. I mean, there's tons of opportunity to be around this technology and take advantage of the growth, as you say, in this innovation economy. But don't, like you said, don't limit yourself. Talk to people about it. I think part of the problem is that a lot of these kids just don't have people to talk to about it, to learn about it, to know what the opportunities are. And, I'll just tell a quick anecdote. After I started my company, and my company was around for 4 months, I was approached by someone to buy my company. And I was like, I've only been around for 4 months. There were only 4 of us at that time. And, I spoke with the guy for a while, and he offered he gave me a pretty decent offer for a company that had only been around for a few months. But I basically said to him, look, there's things that I want to accomplish, and I have not accomplished them yet. And the other thing that I said to him was, it matters to me that I am a black man running my company. More than it matters to me to be, because he offered me a VP position in his company. He would set up a separate division for me and everything. And I just said I needed to have my company so that I could set an example for others, to let them know it can be done.
Sean?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything Aaron just said. And my experience is actually quite similar. But where he says that you don't have to be an engineer to participate in this technological boom is absolutely true. I don't code. I'm not a developer. My developing skills are minimal at best, but I came to technology by being a project manager. So what I do know is how to communicate with engineers, and I know how to communicate with a team, and I know how to communicate what needs to be done. And there are certain technical things that I could distill in layman's terms, but I certainly can't sit down and build an application. But it certainly didn't stop me from starting, a mobile development agency. So I think that people also can't be what they don't see, and so if they don't see that there are those possibilities there, then they don't know that those possibilities exist. And I think it's incumbent upon people like us to make sure that we're showing them that these possibilities do exist.
Yeah, I think the visual representation thing, I think, is key, right? I always say we suffer from environmental constraint, and the environmental constraint is that there are so few of us in the space that most young people growing up don't meet many of us. The other environmental constraint is that there's so few of us in the space that some of us that are in the space hold on to those opportunities so tightly that they almost don't want to share them. There's so few of us in the space that we don't have an ecosystem to spread ourselves out across the opportunities. I mean, I want to go to Ben. I mean, Ben, HashRocket in its heyday probably had more projects than you guys could handle at any given day, and you probably had were inundated by resumes of potential Ruby developers. You know, how many of those were people of color? How many of those were women? I mean, I know you guys aggressively trying to diversify your team. What were some of the challenges you guys faced in trying to fill those roles?
Yeah, Brian Lyles is one of the major African Americans that I can think of, and he did a lot of the testing frameworks that are in Ruby. We had Desi McAdams was actually she was the girlfriend of the founder there, Obi Fernandez, and she actually was very active on the female side. She was very active in doing some. She had an organization called Dev Chicks, which was an outreach program to try to increase women developers, because that is I mean, I went to Georgia Tech and it was a horrible ratio of males to females there. So I mean, she would actively go out to all the. We went to a lot of conferences, and she would always have a dinner or something like that where she would get together. So she did a very good job of making sure that women felt welcomed and had somebody to talk to. So as far as the answer, I don't know what the answer is. Obviously, that's what we're here to talk about. But my question to, I guess, the rest of you guys is mentoring going on? I mean, do each of you have somebody that you're mentoring? I'm ignorant on this, so I apologize for asking this question, but it's something I just wanted to bounce out to the group.
I mean,
yeah, I work with Black Girls Code. My company sponsored the first mobile app ideation class that they had in Atlanta, actually at Georgia Tech. And I also work with Exposure Camp in New York and Today Ships. And that first experience of working with Black Girls Code actually really opened my eyes to just the interest and the passion that's there, and knowing that these kids are not getting this opportunity it's a shame. So I'm glad that those organizations do exist, but that's kind of what I do to help out when I can.
I worked with a organization out here in DC called Dividetalk. Last year we held a hackathon / tech exploration is what we kind of called it, because we were afraid that if we too narrowly defined it as a hackathon, that the only people that would be interested would be people who thought it was about development. So that's why we called it tech exploration / hackathon. It was in Anacostia in the DC area, which is labeled as an underserved area, and they were high school kids that came in. We had probably about a 50-50 split between girls and boys, and so we split them up into about 4 teams, and I stood up in front of these kids. I spoke about Accelerated Titanium, which is a platform we use, for about 30 minutes, and then the guys from my company were also there, and so they split up into teams, and these kids built apps. In like a day and a half, these kids built apps. It shocked me because some of the kids even came in and they knew Prezi and they put together slides. Some of the kids had worked with Photoshop and other design tools. And these are kids that I think most people would just assume did not have the desire or the motivation or experience to do this. And I was completely floored, by the commitment that they had. Now, the problem that came after that was honestly just was money, Where would we continue to bring these kids together to work, to learn, to focus on their projects that they wanted to focus on? I have the desire, I have the people on my team who want to do it, but it's like I would need to find a space, I need to find computers, all these other things that, I'm just a geek, a developer who just got lucky and has a company. I mean, I have no idea about who to reach out to try to build all the other infrastructure that would be necessary to support the kids who need these type of things, because they're just going to go back home, right? And if they're just going back home and nobody at home knows much about the innovation economy or what we're trying to do about technology, they just settle back into a normal routine.
So, Aaron, did you target people of color?
Yes. We specifically, through Dividetalk and through 200 Black Men, we specifically went to local high schools in DC area to ask kids with their parents' permission to sign up to come to this event.
So I'm gonna jump over to Greg Greenlee, give you a chance to join the conversation. Thanks for joining late.
Thanks.
No
Thanks a lot.
problem.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Greg Greenlee. I founded and operate a website, online social network called Blacks in Technology. Started it about 3 years ago, and it's pretty much an online social community of all black technologists. We have over 760 members nationwide from all technology disciplines, network engineers, software engineers, network admins, IT directors. And it's pretty much a place where we get together and we talk tech. There's a fully functional forum where we go and we ask questions, about technology. We talk about career advice, things like that. I also operate a website called the Bit Tech Digest. It's an online blog that focuses on providing a platform for black technologists to be able to write about technology as well. So I started that back in November, and we've got quite a few contributors that contribute pretty frequently to writing about technology, the things that we're interested in, the ones and zeros, anything from security to virtualization to networking.
So, Greg, thanks for that.
No problem.
Maybe tell us a little bit. You have this. It sounds like a pretty strong network of minorities in technology. To answer Ben's question, what kind of mentoring does that group do? Where do they go out? How do they connect with the possible future technologists of the world?
Well, for the most part, our member base is all online. We haven't done any in-person events as of yet. I'm planning on doing some of those this year, but for the most part, everything is pretty much done online. So we always have individuals who join the site who's looking for technology advice. For instance, I want to become a software developer. Where do I start? Or I want to get into networking. What certifications should I get? Or I want to be a forensics or get into information technology forensics. How do I start there? And so we have professionals from from all disciplines, male, female, that will pretty much just chime in and say, hey, here are some of the steps that you should take, or here are some of the steps that you can take in order to achieve your goals of becoming a technology professional. We have chat, live chat on the site as well. Like I said, we have the forums. I do podcasts pretty frequently, where I interview and talk technology with other black technology professionals. There's videos that get posted. There's a whole range of things that I try to do to provide visibility to black technologists.
So I think, jumping in, I want to speak to a point that Aaron made before. I think, in my opinion, to answer Ben's question, to be totally honest, we don't do enough. I think there's some great organizations that are making some strides, but I think some of the things Aaron mentioned speaks to some of the challenges and why I created the Close the Divide project anyway. I created it because I don't believe that there needs to be another organization that's doing something separately around building tools and awareness. I actually believe that there are enough organizations and tools available right now. What doesn't exist are people saying that whether I connect to one person or 100 people, that I'm going to put that person in touch with those opportunities, right? I mean, we talk about infrastructure, we talk about all these different things, but if you think about your own lives, how big of an infrastructure did you really have available to you? You probably didn't, right? You had a small carving of opportunity, you had a passion, you saw the opportunity. And the big difference is, at some point, whether it was through another person, whether it was through something you read, something clicked in you, that light bulb moment to say, hey, there's an opportunity here, and you dug deeper. I think what we don't do enough of is creating those opportunities, but doing them in a very vernacular. Like, everyone on this call is technically literate. So we're having a very technically literate conversation. But that technically literate conversation doesn't translate down to a kid who doesn't even know that technology correlates to what he or she is passionate about. But if you look in our history, everything we've excelled at, we didn't have an infrastructure, right? If we wanted to learn basketball and didn't have a court, we stuck a milk crate onto a tree and we got good on that milk crate. But I think for something about technology, and actually it's the fault of a lot of us who are in the industry, we believe that there has to be this grandiose thing set up to bring people along, and it really doesn't, right? I mean, we all know there's tools right now that if a kid has an interest, he or she can sit in the library and learn how to code. He or she can sit in the library and become technically literate. So we have to tell them that. I mean, and go the extra mile and make ourselves visible. Ben mentioned a little while ago that there is an African American who was one of the leaders in the Ruby on Rails community. I know I didn't know that, right? I know that there are a lot of other people that didn't know that. So finding those different opportunities, and I don't even know if that guy knows how important it would be for him to step out and let people know that he was in that. Because the one person who has been told they don't know enough to code, they're not good enough at school to code, no one like you is coding, to know that that one person was involved in the instrumental part of the language that all those people are using and making money from changes paradigms. I think we have to figure out a way, and if everybody who is on this panel or everybody who's watching committed to grabbing one person and educating them, then you've achieved 10 times more than waiting for some grandiose program, because we really don't need it, right? I mean, Cheyenne made a great point. She sponsored Black Girls Code. Cheyenne could have easily went out and created Oakland Girls Code and did we think we all need to be the originator of something different. Really what we need to do is take the existing networks. Greg, in your Blacks in Technology, there's probably people there who have resources, etc. That if they just had a conversation and say, okay, we both live in the same town, we're going to invite 5 people to Starbucks. I mean, the whole reason I started doing these chats is because I sat around for 3 months saying, what should I do? And just said, it's time to just start doing it. And since then, thousands of people have watched these Divide Talks. Verizon is talking about these Divide Talks for Black History Month as part of their Black History Month campaign, because we just started it, right? So my only arguing point about that, when you talk about, are we mentoring enough? No, because we're not changing the numbers, right? When we firmly say we need to change the numbers by any means necessary, then we'll mentor more. We'll take every opportunity that we have to get in front of a young person or even an older person, right? There's a lot of fully grown adults whose lives could be changed by being digitally literate right now, right? There's people who have watched that presidential address who haven't worked in over a year. We all know that within that year they could have gone from being not literate to being an engineer and having a $60,000, $70,000 job. One of the programs I'm working with now is called Dev Bootcamp, and in 9 weeks they take you from being non-technically literate to being an entry-level Ruby on Rails engineer that can get an $80,000 a year job. So that 9-week difference is that simple, and there's multitudes of programs that we talk about. So I challenge everybody to do that, to start making those connections. I think throwing it out to the group again on that topic, what are some of the things to build awareness? Sean mentioned Black Girls Code. What are some of the programs you guys have seen in your areas or neighborhoods that are trying to do these things that people may not know about?
Well, I know CodeAcademy.com, they have an after-school program, a curriculum that they put together on their website that you can actually use to train children and train, elderly people in coding. And in fact, a friend of mine, Bill, actually, we're going to start teaching kids, through Code Academy, through their curriculum. We're going to start teaching them how to code and how to program. I actually started it on my son just to see if they can understand the curriculum. He turns 7 next month, and he's really into the HTML thing now. He really enjoys when I teach him how to code, because he sees me doing it, and he really enjoys it. So Code Academy has something set up where you can actually use that as a curriculum to teach a class.
That's phenomenal. And I think, you hit 2 things in the head. You hit a free resource, and you also hit the fact that, right, I talked earlier about environmental constraints, right? One environmental constraint we have is that a lot of us come from environments or generations where technology is not conceived to be important. So, by the time you recognize that it's important, you're not in an environment that kind of stimulates that, right? So if you have young children around you, the earlier you can make them comfortable with technology, it's not that big of a hurdle or big of a leap for them to understand that it's easy to do, or it's easy to learn, or it's fun to learn. You know, so I think more people should do that in their environments. Even if you as an adult are scared to death of technology, get your children, get your young people in front of technology so that they don't have that fear. And at some point, they can help bring you along. It's that generational disconnect that we have that makes things so challenging. Anybody else? Any programs that want to talk about?
There's a couple of programs in my area. One is called Tech Corps. Lisa Chambers, she heads that organization up, and I think they do a lot of work with elementary schools and going into the schools, mostly underprivileged inner city schools. They go into the schools and they hold like a probably like 12-week coding event. So it's an after-school thing that they do, I think maybe once a week, once or twice a week. And there's also BDPA, the Black Data Processors Association. They actually have, I think they hold it usually on Saturdays, where they do like a high school, for high school kids, and they teach them how to code. And then every year, annually, they hold a high school competition at their annual conference.
Great. Anybody else? Great. We have we have a question from one of our people watching. The question is from Stephanie Williams. She basically asks, if you have no technology experience, can a help desk job be beneficial, or do you need the A+ certification first? Also, what certifications would you or the panel recommend to get involved in the technology field? So I'm going to answer that last. I'm going to throw that out to anybody who wants to take a stab at that.
I'll give. This is my personal opinion, right? And I'm just a straightforward person. I believe that you said Stephanie was the person who asked this question.
Yep.
I think she's already limiting herself, right? I think that she should at least. It's fine if you want to get a help desk job, but at least try something else first. I mean, I live in D.C., and if you want to, I'm going to be straight. If you want to see a lot of black folks, go find a support desk or help desk jobs at the government offices, because that's where most of the black folks are, right? At least take a shot at some of the more creative jobs that are going to give you a little bit more control of your destiny, as opposed to just a help desk job that you're going to sit there. Once again, I'm not taking anything away from a help desk job, but at least give yourself the opportunity to push yourself, challenge yourself to try something else.
I think it's important to try to find out what your passion is and find out how technology relates to that, and then make the transfer. I don't have any certifications in anything, so I can't say which one is better. But if you really figure out what you love to do, I guarantee you that technology is involved in some way in moving that forward, and I think that that's a great way to start.
Actually, this is the type of question that comes up quite a bit on the Blacks in Technology site, and a person who's a network engineer like myself. What I tend to tell people is find out, just like Sean said, find out what you're passionate about. So and I started out in tech support and moved up to systems and network engineer. But you have to know what you like to do or what you might be passionate about before you start. An A+ certification, I usually tell people that was actually the first certification that I received. But nowadays I tell people, just if you're new to technology, if you don't know anything about it, sure, go ahead and pick up the A+ certification book. Study it. I'm not necessarily saying go out and get the actual cert, but study it for the content itself. But then move on to higher certifications if that's the path that you want to go. So if you feel like you want to be into an administrator role or later on go into an engineering role, start off with the A+ certification so you can get a good foundation, a good basis just for the content, and then move up. If you want to go networking, go learn the stuff in the CCNA. Move up from there, CCNP, CCIE. There's different levels of Cisco certifications. If you want to go the Windows route, study for your MCSE or whatever the highest Microsoft certification is. Linux, Red Hat. You have, if you want to go the cloud virtualization route, you have VMware's VMware Certified Professional route that you can go. But you have to kind of know where you want to go first. Starting off with tech support, yeah, there's a lot of people. I have mixed feelings about that. There's just some people who just don't have the ambition to move on, and that's what you're going to find. And if you don't have the ambition to move on, you're not going to move on. There's a lot of people that get stuck there, and they get stuck because they get there and they're comfortable with that level of technology and that level of knowledge. But if you're ambitious and you're passionate about it, that could be a first step. But know that that's your first step. Know that that's just a step, and it could lead to a higher position or a higher tier of technology.
So how does somebody get to figure out their passion? What are some good resources to kind of dabble with those so they can start to play around with it? Yeah,
so I'll take both. So I want to go back to Stephanie's question, and I wanted to answer last and preface this by my goal is not to offend anybody, which usually means I'm probably going to offend somebody.
This guy.
But I think certifications are age-old things that don't have any value today. And usually, if you see most of the institutions that offer certifications are ones like Penco Tech and those, those that basically want you to come pay for those certifications. The reason why I say I don't believe that they offer value, because there's very few jobs, leading-edge jobs today, that ask you for those certifications up front. And the time that you spend going to one of those programs trying to get that certification, you could be spending learning skills where you could be working right now. I think the problem, and this is one of our big issues with not having enough of us outly mobile and available to give insight to people, is that they get wrong information, right? That if someone's out there and doesn't have a job, and they're looking where most people look for information, whereas the TV, and they see a commercial saying, "Come for a low monthly payment, get the certification, and get employed." To Ben's point, they're not focused about what their passion is. They're just focused about, hey, if I get this certification, I could be working. So I think we need to figure out ways to get in front of people, and what I tell people is, hey, what do you like to do? And they'll say X, and I'll say, well, go to Google and type, how do I do X using technology, and see what comes up, right? Jobs will come up, services will come up. You may decide that you know a way to start a company based on that. You may see other people who are doing those jobs, but until you kind of put people that way, they're going to gravitate to, and again, this is not an offense of anyone who has an A+ certification or any of those certifications, but those certifications today don't give you a significant leg up versus going to the skills. If you had to choose, I'd rather you go to Code Academy and learn those skills than spend a couple $1,000s to get a certification, because you'd be just as employable. The passion thing, that we just need to find people to direct you in your passion, right? One of the reasons why I kind of lead off talks about my entertainment experience, because a lot of people don't negotiate entertainment with technology. They assume you have to either be a performer or something of those natures. The technology plays, the beauty of this is that technology plays a role in everything. There's nothing you're passionate about that technology doesn't play a role in, and there's not a career opportunity, whether it's art, whether it's music, anything you can think of. There's a technology piece of that can get you into that industry. And then the last one, answering the first question first, I actually believe that if you are unemployed and you can get a help desk job, that's a great job to get, because at least you're hearing people talk to you about technology. You're getting an understanding of how whatever platform you're helping with works, and also you're breaking that environmental constraint. You go from being in a non-technical environment to being in an environment where other people are using technology, and you may start to say, hey, well, what do you do? Oh, I'm an engineer. Well, how did you get to do that? And what are the skills that you have? The problem is where people are coming in a vacuum. So I don't ever want to dissuade anyone from getting an opportunity, even if it's an entry-level opportunity, because that is a blessing to get you in the door and get to widen your perspective. You know, I think, again, going on against ourselves is that people who are in it, we look at it from almost you know, you should have X, Y, and Z to get in it. And it's really not. Like, we have to a certain degree, stop feeling ourselves and recognize that at one point we were those people who didn't have those skills. So until we communicate it in a way that makes it open, there's enough of the world telling minorities and women that they shouldn't be in technology. It shouldn't be other minorities and women. It just shouldn't, right? We should be looking from the standpoint. I make a big claim that I recognize that, you know, I am 1 degree away from someone who is not working, doesn't have a home, and doesn't have those skills. I've only been blessed with the opportunities and the relationships that I've built to build those skills along the way. Once you look at things from that perspective, you're open and eager to let someone else know. It's very easy to not look at it from that perspective because we're in it and we recognize it. You know, we're connected to technology. For every one of us that's connected to technology, there's 5 people out there who aren't connected at all. And if we connected to one of those people and shared some of that information, and more importantly, let them know that, hey, you're coming from a background, I came from that same background. You know, I didn't come from some background that makes it so difficult for you to get there. You know, when I would visit Ben in Jacksonville, where their office was probably 5 or 6 miles from an impoverished community, right? That divide was that small, right? Every affluent area is a mile away from a ghetto. The Silicon Valley, you can get to Oakland in 20 minutes. Like you know, the connections aren't that wide, and we have to stop pushing people to think that they are, right? Because the fact that, you know, and I go to Stephanie and give you credit, the fact that you're on watching this at 10 o'clock at night if you're on the East Coast means you already have that spark and you're searching for that information. And the fact that you can see an abundance of faces of color and a woman on the screen should give you incentive to go into any of those avenues. So I'm gonna get off my soapbox, but that was I think that's important. I think you know, those are one of the biggest. I think the challenges we have are not technical challenges; they're sociological challenges on both sides of the fence that we have to fix. So that's just me. So jumping into, and the other thing I want to tell you guys as I look for other questions. You know, a couple months ago, I kept alluding on Dividetalk that, you know, I was pretty excited about something, and one of those things was that Verizon gave me a call and picked me to be part of their Celebrate Your Stories campaign. So I encourage everyone to go to VZW/innovate. And when they called, I'll be honest with you, you know, I thought they were calling about BT or Radio 1 or Global Grind, and they were calling about the Close the Divide initiative. And I think that has a lot to do with all of you. No TV commercials, no big fanfare, it's just people coming together and sharing information, and it got to their ears, and now they're promoting that on the national level, which is great, which keeps us continuing to go on this plight and sharing this information. I do believe.
Can you give the URL again? Sorry.
Yep, it's vzw.com/innovate.
Great, thank you.
No, thank you.
Can you put it in that little box over there? Is that?
What do you say?
Can you put it in the little box over there?
I will. I'll put it in the little box, and you know what? I'll actually put it here. Hold on.
Oh wait, you got a little lower third.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'll add it there. I gotta put it there. I gotta find the editor part though. Here it is. Oh, please use it. I'll put it in the chat. Here it is. Yep. Sean already put it in the chat. All right, so really quickly, not to keep everybody, make sure we see if we have any other questions from any of the groups. So really quickly, opening it up, you know, as we talk about, if you had to tell, you know, I made that big grandiose speech about connecting to people about technology and opportunities. If there was one thing that each one of you wanted to tell someone listening who may be debating on whether they continue to pursue the technology field, to continue to pursue, to be more literate and understand the technologies in front of them, you know, what's the one thing that each one of you would what advice you would give?
Oh, I would just say that it's not hard to get. Well, it's not that hard to get into. People may look at it and think it is a difficult field to get into. You need to know mathematics. You need to know all this code and formulas and things like that. And I always say it's not that hard to get into. You can try a lot of free tools like CodeAcademy.com and Google.com just to search and find tutorials that can help you learn how to code and get you started. So it's really not that hard. There's really no excuse to get into it.
Great.
I would say if someone's thinking about it, that there shouldn't be any hesitation at all, because we're moving towards a world that you're absolutely going to have some level of skill, whether it's just using a computer in order to really get by. Any hesitation at all, let tonight be the end of it, and do whatever you can to move in that direction.
Great.
I mean, I agree with what what everyone said so far. The other important thing is, you know, we've touched on it a few times, is make sure that it's something that you're passionate about, because once you pass the first hump and you say I want to be in tech and you get involved in it, if it's something that you really are committed to and you really want to excel with, you're going to have to put the time in. And I guess what I say to the guys that work with me, it's the difference between, it's the difference between the men and the boys. You know, you could come to work every day, do your 6-8 hours, and then go home, and you'll be okay. But if you're really committed to excelling in this field and really committed to being at the top, you got to put in your time. You know, and so to put in that time, you have to be passionate about it. You have to enjoy what you're doing, and it can't just be a job.
Great.
I agree 100% with the passion thing. A lot of times you run into people who just want to get into it to make money. And the first thing I tell people is, if you're not passionate about this, about technology, then you'll quickly find out that it might be the wrong field for you. Also, as a shameless plug, I tell people, join Blacks in Technology, because we have a huge community of technology professionals that are willing to help out. One of the things that I love about the community is that people are on there and they're giving people advice about whatever they want to know, within technology, and they're doing it in a very considerate, a very respectable way. They're doing it to where they're not turning people away from technology or discouraging them. Everything is helpful, and that's, one of the biggest things that I see is that needs to be conquered is visibility. I think you've touched on that quite a few times, but visibility is key. If people don't see other people that look like them that's into technology, they're quickly discouraged. So I say, there's a lot of organizations out here. What I try to do is I try to reach out to a lot of these organizations, try to get them on podcasts, try to preview their organization on the site. I have a network, outside of the big community itself, that, if people want to know about startups or anything like that, I say, hey, here's Black Founders, or hey, here's Black Girls Code or Black Girls Hack, and try to put them in touch with the right people. So I say join a community or an organization like Blacks in Technology.
Great. Did everybody answer?
Yeah, I'd say that I'd echo what Greg just said, that that community, and I'm obviously speaking a little different from everybody else, but
you can join. I know it says Blacks in Technology, but we're inclusive. Anybody can join, as long as you have, as long as you're contributing to the community. That's how.
Well, what I was going to say is that I think that your community probably has a vested interest in the people that are signed up to help them. But in general, like if what Aaron was saying about getting into something you're passionate about, any community out there, if they're going to help you get started. So I mean, one great thing about the internet is on a forum there is no color, right? I mean, it doesn't know who's typing in it. So I can tell you that in the Ruby community, if you are earnestly trying to learn a new technology, there are tons and tons of people that are going to help you. So the open source community is a phenomenal thing. It is a great way to learn. So like Reggie said, Code Academy, I've put a couple other links here. Khan Academy actually has a computer science, and it's like almost an online college right there. It's an amazing thing. And then I also put a link to Try Ruby if you want to play around. So I mean, there is a ton of opportunity out there.
Real quick, I have to echo that sentiment there, because I know you guys do a real good job in the Ruby community of making sure that there's diversity that's included. And I know that there was a huge thing about, what was that, Brit Ruby, I think? What was it? The conference over in Great Britain that pretty much got canceled because they did not have a diverse speaking panel.
I actually haven't heard about that. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, look that up. Yeah.
I heard
So
about that one.
I definitely applaud you guys.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I mean, I think that the community. Look, I agree. The community matters. It's out there. You Google it. You start to look around. It's easy to find information, and the beautiful thing about it is that the internet makes us all neighbors. So you can find help from some guy that's on the other side of the world, a completely different time zone. The platform that I use, Accelerator, when I started out with them, I mean, they were a company of 10 people. It wasn't really that big a deal. And I got involved, and I started blogging, and I got a huge following from blogging. So I have relationships with people in the U.S., India, China, all over the world, who I've grown in the space with them, and they've grown and they've learned from me. And that's another thing I tell people is get online and Google stuff. It's kind of good and bad, but you can almost build a mobile app from just the stuff you find online and cut and paste. There's just so much information and knowledge that's just freely available out there that if you have access to a computer, or even at this point a phone that has access to the internet, there's just a wealth of information that can be taken in.
So I think, a bunch of really good information. I mean, I think I'll kind of close it out with a couple things. One is, it doesn't take money. You've heard Ben talk about Khan Academy's computer science curriculum. You heard about Code Academy, which is free. It doesn't take money. It takes you starting. All you have to do is decide that you're going to start, that you're going to become digitally literate. You hear people talk about this opportunity. You want to be one of those people. You have to start. You have to go to Google and type, how do I do X, and see what comes up. You'll be surprised at what happens. Secondly, if you're in the community and you already are technically literate, you have to go where people are. There's a lot of organizations out there who are solving the problem, but solving the easy problem. Going to where people already have access to technology and pointing them in a little different space is the easy problem. Let's solve the hard problem. Let's go into the environments where they're not even thinking about touching the computer and get them excited about using a computer. And it doesn't have to be the code. Get to use a computer to find out information about what they want to learn. Find out information about where they want to work. Push them in that direction. So I'm pushing our community to stop feeling ourselves, roll up our sleeves, and get our hands dirty. Because if we don't, it's not going to change. Anything that's ever happened in our community of value has started from within our community. There's never been a movement that has come into our community and brought things out. So I don't know why people are waiting for that to happen when it comes to technology. It's not going to happen. It's only going to happen if we work as a team. A friend of mine, Pastor Charles Jenkins, has used the phrase, teamwork makes the dream work. So if we don't band together and come up with opportunities to integrate with other people and interact with them and help them understand the opportunities that we know about, it's never going to happen. And, there's a picture. The census says by the year 2040, the United States will be primarily people of color. If we don't bring our people and help them educate and create opportunities, there's nothing worse than someone with nothing to lose. So we need to help our people find something to gain and connect to them. So that's why we get to do this. That's why we come together at night. So I'm hoping that people are watching. Got a lot of insight. I put all those links on Twitter. We'll keep people connected. Dividetalk is back. I promise for the end of this month, Close the Divide 4.me will launch. And all this information will be there. We'll continue to grow this movement. And I appreciate everybody's time. Closing out, if anybody in the panel has any closing thoughts, let me know. But if not, we're going to let these good people go. Great. Well, I want to thank you guys for taking the time. I appreciate it. Thank you for everybody watching. We will be back week after next. Dividetalk will be consistent again, I promise, with new guests, new ideas, new topics, and we're not going to stop until we get everybody digitally connected. So I appreciate it, guys. Peace.
Thank you. Hey, I need to get you on the podcast, Navarro.
I know. I've been slacking. I apologize.
No problem.
We'll be connected. Thank you, guys. I'll talk to you soon. All right.